FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
We're back on the Financial Survival Network. Kerry Lutz just got back from vacation, but we wanted to touch base with Andrew Hoffman because there is so much going on. If you want to support the show, just shoot over to clubfsn.com, $1, $2 a month, whatever you feel comfortable with. We really appreciate it. And Andy, talk about Manipulation Monday. This is more like Collapse Monday, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to talk about Manipulation Monday, I mean, let's just look at it this way. Of course, the stock market was stopped at minus 1%, but you could forget about that. That's just as likely to hyperinflate as it is to crash. I mean, in either way, you lose all your money in real terms. But to watch oil prices rocketing higher, treasury bonds rocketing higher on the prospects of not only economic collapse, but potentially World War III, and to watch gold capped at exactly the COMEX open for like the 5th time in the last 6 days, it just shows you the desperation is so off the charts right now. It's almost unfathomable that anyone with half a brain can't see it. And speaking of charts, if you look at Bill Holter's piece today, he puts in another one of these presentations showing the technicals going all the way back to 1971 to when we got off the gold standard, showing that gold is by far, and I mean by magnitudes by far, more oversold than it was in 1980 and 2008, all these things. We put an article up back in January called Charts Even We Can Appreciate, because here at the Miles Franklin blog, no one knows more about the manipulation of short-term patterns than anyone else, but long-term patterns are almost impossible to influence, and never have the technicals probably of any asset class in the history of mankind been as bullish as gold and silver are right now. Then when you throw in the fundamentals, not just of what's going forward in the in the world politically and economically, but the fact that the mining industry is literally on the verge of collapse, and that is not an underestimation. You could see just how unbelievably positive that even the near term is setting up, let alone the next few years.
Hey, and we just had maybe the greatest contrary indicator of all times. They're canceling or suspending hard assets New York and hard assets San Francisco.
Right.
That's huge.
Well, put it this way. Before I joined Miles Franklin 3 years ago, I spent 5 years in the mining business working for junior miners. In some cases, I worked as head of corporate development, as head of investor relations. I was an investor relations consultant. I mean, I had dozens and dozens of clients over the years. So I spent so many years going to the PDAC conference in Toronto, which is the biggest mining conference, and all the Cambridge conferences, such as the ones in Vancouver, and of course the hard assets conferences. Not a big fan of the New York conference because, as everything else that has to do with New York, it was corrupted by some bad people that they would have come. But San Francisco was by far the biggest one in the States. I believe San Francisco is pound for pound the most mining savvy city in this country. So to see the biggest mining conference of the States gone with gold at $1,300 on the verge of exploding is quite a statement.
Yeah, amazing. And
coinciding, by the way, with Barrick firing its CEO for the 3rd time in 3 years.
Yeah, I saw that too. I actually saw that too. It's kind of just hanging out on vacation, just trying to get away from it. And, it just said, what's going on with these people? This is crazy, right?
I mean, let's face it. Look, mining has been my life for a decade. I've owned the companies. I don't anymore. Now I just own physical because I don't think the risks are worth it in mining, but I worked with them. I've been to dozens of mines around the world. I've met the people. Look, the people that run mining companies, I know everyone wants to believe they understand gold. They don't have the slightest clue about economics or finance. Yes, maybe about how to finance their companies. But when it comes to understanding the world in general, the macroeconomy, and even the fundamentals of the gold and silver industries, zero. I mean, these people are either engineers or geologists. That's who runs companies. And their job is to try to build mines and explore for mines. And they have been so badly exploited by this cartel that not only have their businesses have been destroyed, they don't even have the slightest idea why. They don't have the slightest idea why the price is not higher. And look, you see the data that came out today from, I think, the best mining analyst in this country, Steve St. Angelo. He's on the SRS Rocco report for free, showing that this year was the all-time lowest ore yields of the 5 largest gold miners in the world that collectively produced a third of all the output, more than that, actually. It's down a whopping 30% in the last 8 years. The yields down to barely 1 ounce per ton. 1 gram per ton. Okay.
Yeah.
And and the ores that they've had to process are up 30% over that time. Meaning, as we've been talking about along, the cost of production has skyrocketed. There's a reason why the CEO of Goldfields, the 5th largest producer in the world, recently said we must have $1,500 an ounce gold for the industry to be sustained. And that includes not only producing the best mines in the world, but all of the mines in the world, and also to replace reserves so that the industry doesn't collapse from depletion, which, by the way, is exactly what's going to happen because of what the cartel has done over the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's looking more and more like it. When I see these conferences, which are really, institutions, Andy, falling by the wayside, then you just know that that something big is happening.
Well, look, it's the junior miners that make the discoveries. I mean, we've written about these things ad nauseum. There have been no discoveries in this business for 2 decades. The only one that I can remember in my 12 years in the mining sector was the Fruta del Norte discovery by Aurelian Resources back in 2005. And we wrote an article last year saying something like this was the only discovery in memory, and this is what happened to it. Basically, Kinross bought it from Aurelian. It's in Ecuador. And then Kinross wrote the whole thing off last year because the Ecuadorian government said we want like a 70% royalty. So they never even explored it. So there's no discoveries, major ones in recent years. And the junior miners who typically make them have had no money. We wrote 2 years ago how we thought at half or more of all the junior miners would be bankrupt. And guess what? It's true. That's why no one's showing up to the conference, because there's no miners showing up to the conference. And then, of course, the sentiment has been knocked down so badly by the cartel that no one wants to own it. The whole world, the whole Eastern world, the Chinese, the Russians, Indians, the Arabs are buying it hand and fist, while moronic Western investors just let the opportunity of a lifetime to protect themselves pass them. They can't even see the fact that production is collapsing, which has nothing to do with the demand factors. And therefore, again, setting up, in my opinion, no more of this, 5 years from now, 2 years from now. Something is going to give very, very soon.
And when it gives, what do you think is going to be the upshot of it, Andy?
Well, again, I mean, if you're talking about price of gold, I don't really care what it is. I mean, Jim Sinclair says 2,000 to 3,500 this year. Is he right? I don't know. But it's not a matter of the price of gold. It's a matter of the purchasing power of real items of value compared to the fiat currencies that they're denominated in. I mean, we're talking about the potential here for real. Forget the economy. It's falling. We're talking about the potential for World War III. Whether it starts in the Ukraine between the U.S. and Russia, or in Iraq or Iran because of the Sunnis versus the Shiites, or Israel, where where they may potentially have the next great war, which was inevitable for all these decades there, or maybe somewhere else. It may be the riots we've seen in places like Argentina or Brazil, Venezuela, Turkey, Thailand. Greece. You name it. There's so many things that all the printing of money have created. And the printing of money is only going exponential now. And again, there is no doubt in my mind that at some time, a lot sooner than you think, Janet Yellen will be the final domino, and she finally admits that things aren't going as planned and has to change her tune about tapering or ZERP or whatever it is. And it's coming soon.
Hey, do you read David Stockman's blog by any chance?
Yeah, he's one of the few people that it's a must read. I'm on his mail list. He's one of the best financial writers out there.
Same thing. ContraCorner.com, I think it is. Let me look at it right now. I'll tell you what it is. It's really must reading. Contra Corner Digest. I mean, the guy just nails it every single time, and he's an insider,
well, he's him and Paul Craig Roberts, both from the Reagan administration. Nothing to do with whether you like Reagan or not. It turns out that's where they both came from. Are the best sources of information for the economic and political insider views that are actually going on.
Yeah, exactly. And your jaw just drops when you read his work because it's so spot on on the money, and you just know that he's telling you the way it is. I mean, talking about Exim Bank, really hates Exim Bank, which finances like Boeing and weapons purchases and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, it's just another slush fund for the lobbyists that run America. And the same thing for the World Bank and the IMF and all these things. There's nothing, not a single thing that's positive about their existence.
Yep, exactly. So when we return, we'll go through some more of these things, the China housing numbers, the housing starts in the U.S., etc., on the Financial Survival Network.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Do you have Medicare or health insurance through your employer? If so, listen up. The healthcare reform wasn't written to save the healthcare industry or even to lower healthcare costs. Shoot, it isn't even designed to insure the uninsured. It's just a temporary political byproduct. Like a flat rock you step on in a swiftly moving stream, Obamacare is just a means to an end. Want to learn more about Obama's ultimate objective? Then you'll want to review our latest research presentation found on oclies.com. In it, a health expert and industry insider explains what you think you know about caring for your health is about to drastically change in 2014. Plus, he details the simple steps you could take to save thousands of dollars per year in health costs. It's free for you to preview at oclies.com. Don't waste time. What you don't know about the healthcare reform could hurt you and your family.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
We're back. It is Manipulation Monday with Andrew Hoffman. Andy, housing starts, real great numbers there, huh?
Well, look, we've been told all along that housing is the power behind the recovery. We've even learned, per the government itself, admitted that housing is something like 40 or 50% of the entire GDP growth over the last 2 years, which is pretty scary because mortgage applications are at a 20-year low. Housing starts, for all the excitement I put up in my article today, which is called The Road to Inflation in Simple Pictures, it shows that housing starts have only been lower one time in the last 60 years, and that was literally the bottom in 2008, 2009, when everyone was in a deer in headlights situation. So for anyone who thinks that things are getting better, they're not. The fact that the NAHB's sentiment has risen in the last 2 months is meaningless. Remember, the NAHB, just 2 years ago, they had to change all of their estimates for prior sales. They dropped them by like 20 or 30%. They're a bunch of liars, and any sentiment that they say is meaningless. I mean, why is the mainstream media not focusing on the consumer sentiment index that came out on Friday, which was the lowest number of the entire year and the biggest drop in I think 3 years? You know, they'll only put out their diffusion indices, which are rigged, whenever they say something they want to say. But again, the island of lies that I talk about is being isolated every single day. People are realizing that putting up phony jobs numbers, or better yet, jobs numbers that are, all you have to do is look at them to see that they don't make any sense and they're not even positive. And to say that these diffusion indices say sentiment is better, it's all BS. When you look at the real numbers, I mean, I've been writing for the last month, painstakingly putting out the data of real economic data, and it shows at best a flat GDP from 2Q over 1Q. And so when John Williams says, yeah, we may see a negative print, I go, well, of course we're probably going to see that. Why does Wall Street still think we're going to be plus 3%? What statistical fudging could possibly get all of the real numbers that were flat to be plus 3%? And if they are, all it's going to do is seal the demise of the propaganda game even more, because like the unemployment reports, which everyone's laughing at now, they're going to laugh at the GDP reports.
Yeah, I mean, there's zero credibility left. I mean, how many of you really believe what the government is telling you at this point, right?
Yeah, whether it's economic or political. I mean, again, I'm not going to get into, my piece on Friday about the Malaysian airline was called Coincidence. Again, I'm not making conspiracy theories, but I'm saying to see that this horrific event, which could be, as I read an article today, the Archduke Ferdinand moment, to see Obama on the tape hours later saying it was Russia that did it. Who would even believe that kind of evidence would even be around in such a short amount of time? And now, of course, you look at what's going on today, and Russia's submitting all this forensic data, which, assuming it's not doctored, and I kind of doubt it is given the scope of it, It's the complete opposite. It says the Ukrainians nationalists were the ones who were doing it. And, the Ukrainian nationalists are the ones that we back. But I don't know what really happened. The fact is, I don't believe anything I'm told anymore. I believe the Russians more than I believe what I'm told, especially when it comes from the financial side regarding Wall Street and the Federal Reserve. So, I am frankly terrified as to what is coming in the next few months, maybe even weeks.
So you really think it could be the Archduke Ferdinand moment of 2014? You really think so?
I don't know. We've had a lot of those moments which didn't turn out that way yet. But meanwhile, what's going on in Iraq with the ISIS that's still there? Look at oil prices. What's going on in Israel? It's escalated to the worst levels they've seen in decades there. What's going on in the Ukraine is, we wrote that article, This is Why We Do What We Do, when the whole Ukraine thing started. And since then, we've listened week after week about de-escalation propaganda, which is no different than the propaganda of recovery and tapering in the in the economy side. And we've said all along that this could be one of the World War III events. And look what's going on with this airliner being shot down, and Obama and Kerry accusing the Russians and sanctioning them. How much further can this rope be pulled before it snaps?
Yeah, and at the same time, de-dollarization is running quickly ahead, right? Just
and you
every
see
day.
The Chinese come out today and say what the heck is wrong with the U.S. going to blaming Russia for everything that's going on. China and Russia are becoming the world axis of power. When you think of who they're up against, the U.S., which is dying with its wimpy little partner, the U.K., which isn't even worth mentioning. And of course, now we're alienating France and Germany. Who's left in our access? And who's left in our access that has any financial means, let alone political will?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's getting a bit scary, but how far are they really going to push it? You think
I don't know.
They're going to go to war?
Some will say the goal is war. I don't know what the goal is, but any objective person, and this is what I do. I write about logic. Any objective person who would look at what the United States has been doing would say they want to destroy themselves militarily, financially. And then the conspiracy type people will come out and say, well, they're doing it because of this. They want martial law. They want this. They want that. I don't really care or know what the meaning is or what the goal is, or if there even is a goal other than waking up every day and just trying to kick the can. But what I do know is all you have to look at how we act politically, financially, economically, and you just wonder what on earth would we be trying to do other than to destroy ourselves? Yeah. Except for the 1%, of course, they get richer.
It's self-immolation, it really is on a global stage.
Yeah, and again, it used to be that we led everybody, but I'm looking around and seeing who is it that we're leading now. Who is listening to us? Who's on our side? The UK? Heck, even the UK has gotten eerily silent on the usual. Bush speaks, Cameron agrees. I haven't heard anything from them because they're trying to deal with their own inflation problems, their own societal issues, and I don't think they want to anymore join our wars like they joined in Iraq. And God, you remember all the speech from was it Blair?
Yeah.
Just relentlessly, whatever Bush said, he agreed with, and look where it got them. I don't think we have any real allies left that matter. In the world, going up against this increasingly large Eastern power. The BRICS are setting up their own central bank, their own development bank. They're de-dollarizing. The Saudis are talking to them now. How much longer can the reserve currency status hang on?
It makes you wonder how it held on this long, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of it is inertia, of course, and then and a lot of it is fear. A lot of countries have feared, well, what happens? We all own dollar reserves. We don't want to anger the United States. But it's getting to the point where it's every man for himself type thing.
Yeah, I think we are getting to that point, but, it's just going to be worldwide chaos.
Absolutely.
It's going to be chaos. Maybe that's what these people behind these events want. They want chaos, Yeah,
and again, not conspiracy theory people here. I'm not going to try to guess what they want. All I could do is say what they are doing is certainly boding extremely poorly for 99% of the world, and extremely positively for those owning real assets like gold and silver.
Yeah, you got to scratch your head and wonder, time to take out that insurance policy if you haven't already, huh?
Oh, my God. You talk about low sentiment in this country. It is unfathomable how little interest there is in precious metals. Meanwhile, you look around the world at the demand, and it's incredible that we're the same planet. I mean, we're talking about China in the first 4 months of the year, but like 80% of all the global production of gold. Mm-hmm. And now in India, now they haven't even taken off the tariffs yet, which of course they will, and demand has been surging. The Russians, they tell you every month what they're doing. You can only imagine what the Arabs are doing right now, buying physical gold and silver. But here in America, it couldn't be more lethargic. I mean, this is a dumbed down nation. And of course, part of it is Americans don't have any money anymore. But we're not talking about the 99%. The people that buy gold and silver are the people who have the money. They're the same people who were buying it hand over fist in 2011 and 12 when the prices were near their highs. These were our two best years in the history of our company, in a 25-year history. But too many people still think in terms of investment, and they see that paper price, the one that gets manipulated down every single day, and it's not high enough. Doesn't have momentum, so they just wait. And then next thing you know, it'll surge higher. Everyone will call up at the same time, and there'll be no more metal. It'll be that simple. That's how it's going to end. That's how we've warned for years. There's no doubt that exactly what happened in 2008 when we ran out of supply, and even to a lesser extent in 2011 when prices went up, and even a lesser extent in 2013 after that big smash is going to be what happens. Only this time there'll be far more demand and far less metal.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious. I mean, you could just see the handwriting on the wall here. Yep. Well, I don't know what else we got to cover here. Anything else meaningful? Well, the Espirito Santo filed for bankruptcy, huh?
Yep. My article following it was called Contained because right away everyone's saying, "Don't worry, it'll be contained," just like Bernanke said and everyone else. I mean, it's not going to be contained. Europe is tied together. Period. Europe's housing market is tied together. Everything is tied together. And Espirito Santo is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yep. And hey, the subprime auto bubble looks like it's getting ready to pop here in the States as well, huh?
Incredible. I mean, General Motors. I mean, General Motors doesn't make all the loans. I'm not sure if GMAC is even still doing the stupid things that it was doing way back then. But I mean, General Motors, the fact that the government came in and saved it, and then it came out of bankruptcy. All it does now is recall cars and channel stuff. And the subprime loan in autos has built up around it back to the 2007 highs. I mean, you just can't conceive of a situation where America, from the financial companies to the industrial companies, can harm themselves anymore. I mean, look at all these articles about IBM, our greatest company, having borrowed $25 billion in the last 3 years just to buy back stock. Its debt ratios exploded. Its capex has plummeted. It's had lower year-over-year revenues for 9 quarters in a row. Heck, my 2 neighbors that worked for them just got laid off within 2 months of each other at IBM, and they still think the world is fine. So, I mean, everything from the government down to the corporations to the individuals has been subject to this cancer, and the cancer is spreading as rapidly as any financial plague that's ever been seen on this planet.
Yeah, it's rather remarkable. Well, on that note, Andy, we find your work at milesfranklin.com. You and Bill Halter, must reading. Go sign up now and go over to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Sign up for our newsletter. Andy, we will talk to you next Monday.
Look forward to it.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.